What's the most pathetic thing you've done because you are feeling frisky? Story 1. When I was in college, there was a really bad snowstorm one night, but I was up late texting some girl. Things got heated and I decided to brave the storm to get lucky. I ended up getting stuck in the snow about half a mile from her house, in the city. I abandoned my car in the middle of the street and walked the rest of the way because I was not going home empty-handed. Got some action, yes, then returned to my car a couple hours later to find the battery depleted from the hazards. It was like 4 a.m. at this point, so I had nobody to contact for a jump. I ended up waiting almost 2 more hours before someone driving by jumped me and I was able to unstick my car and drive home. 10 out of 10 would do again. Great life memory of a desperate struggle for a conquest. Decided to brave this storm. What a legend. Oh, what people would do just to get some action. This is why humans are still around. The unstoppable quest to reproduce. Story 2. Reading some of this just reminded me of something. In high school, I was really tired one day, talking to one of my buddies, not like a real close friend, but more of a peripheral bro. And I was talking about how tired I was because it was early in the morning. He said he had some no-dose caffeine pills, and asked if I wanted some. I said sure. So I took 2 no-dos that he gave me. Then he started busting up laughing, and I didn't get the joke. What's so funny? I asked, and he showed me the bottle. It was actually his father's prescription sildenafil, so everyone in the group was just laughing non-stopping at me because I just took 2 pills of sildenafil. Side note, sildenafil is used by people with ED. In other words, it makes your wiener hard. Then, word started spreading around school how I had taken the sildenafil, and everyone seemed to be giving me funny smirks and weird looks. I don't really know how sildenafil is specifically supposed to work at that time, so this might be a placebo thing, but an hour or so later, I had an uncontrollable rock-hard wiener and had to go to the bathroom to relieve it. I came out of there and there were a bunch of people waiting for me, and they all started laughing. I gotta say, it was pretty funny. Nowadays, stunts like that could get you in trouble or even suspended, but I would award that prank of the year in my books. 10 out of 10. Story 3. In 8th grade, I was very nerdy and shy, but I lucked out in dating a rather attractive nerd. We were in love, but didn't do much but make out. I was super excited, but she was shy. First week of summer vacation, she gets invited to a real party and brings me along. This good-looking jock type from our class is chatting her up, and she has a drink of booze. I'm shy and jealous, so I just stand in the corner and hide. I eventually realized she was gone. I waited some more hoping she'd show up. I go upstairs, and in the first bedroom I see them together. He'd just finished when I came into the room. He says to me, "You can have her now," gets dressed and leaves. She looks like she might cry. She apologizes and says she loves me. I held her in my arms and kissed her. I helped her get dressed and took her home. I was in love with her and aroused and desperate and lonely. They spent the summer just doing it, and I put up with it because I was so aroused I wanted to give it to her too. I thought eventually she'd let me. They even did it a few times in my own house because they had nowhere else to go. She never did give me the go signal. One time I guilted her into giving me some sloppy toppy, but that was it. She broke up with me at the end of summer and I didn't lose my V-card until college. Yo, what did I just read? You stayed with her while she was sleeping with another dude, and you let them do it in your house? Story 4. Throw away because holy crap, this could end me. Note, I'm female. I used to babysit a mentally handicapped boy who lived next door to us whenever his parents wanted to go out for an evening. I say babysit in quotations because he was 3 years older than me. I was 15, he was 18. He mostly kept to himself in his bedroom, which made it easy money for me. I was a bit of an awkward penguin at that age, so I was petrified of talking to boys. But my sex drive was insane. I got frisky with myself at least twice a day, if you know what I mean. About an hour into one of the many Friday nights I spent making sure he didn't burn the house down, I went upstairs to check on him. His parents were out to dinner and then a movie. I knocked twice, no answer. I swung the door to find him sitting and see me squatting on the end of his bed bar, with his wiener in his hand. I didn't have much experience at the time, but in retrospect, I'm going to say he was 7 to 7.5. He'd been going to town. He stopped midway and looked at me like a deer in the headlights. I didn't know what to do or say. I was stunned. Our eyes stayed locked for what felt like a solid minute. The shock wore off for him because it did for me, probably because he'd been caught 100 times before. And to look on his face transformed from shock to goofy freaking grin. He started to giggle and looked away, and picked right up where he left off. He was beet red. I think it was less embarrassment and more that he was working on making a mess in the hardwood floor of his room. Should I have pulled the door shut, turned around and walked away? Yes, did I? No, of course I didn't. Handicapped or not, this was a boy in front of me, a frustrated teenager. I stood and watched for several minutes. I'd never seen a real one, and I sure as hell had never seen a guy going to town. I finally broke the silence with a real gem. To this day I swear it just came out. Hi, so, do you want me to maybe help you with that? More giggling. No eye contact was made, but he nodded almost as vigorously as he was going to town. I remember feeling guilty and awkward about it a few days afterward, but that eventually gave way to anticipation of the next time I'd get to babysit. It turned out being the following Friday, and many more Fridays after that before I finally left for college 2 years later. Never said a word to his parents about it, and I've never said word about it to another living soul until now. Holy moly, I'm legit stunned. Not sure if he was lucky or you're messed up. Just wowzer. I think you won this thread. Story 5. I was in the Navy and took a week of leave in Italy. Had my girlfriend flown out to Rome as a birthday present and convinced her to have a quick session in one of the dark alcoves in the Vatican just so one day I could brag about it like this. Fastest session I've ever had. I'm pretty sure this dude is going to hell for this. Even Satan would be scared of him. Story 6. Search for homemade adult toys online and try the first one I came across, which was an adult toy made of a cantaloupe by carving a hole in it. I remember feeling a wave of nervous guilt while I was at the checkout line buying the fruit at the market, and wasn't able to meet the eyes of the clerk in fear he knew what I was up to. Of course, he probably didn't. But excited teen me had a guilty conscience. The instructions recommended heating it up in the microwave before use, and I remember checking it, and it wasn't too warm after 30 seconds. Repeated this multiple times until it was relatively warm. Hindsight is 20/20. I should have realized the center of the melon would have been hotter than the parts near the surface. Use some cooking oil to make things slide, shove it inside, and a second later was screaming because the center of the melon was unbelievably hot. The burn caused my skin to peel later, and I couldn't touch my thing again for days. Crap. It must have hurt. Cantaloupe 1, U 0. Someone would have done this in the Vatican. Yeah, I'm referring to you Navy dude from the story before this, story 7. Not so much pathetic as it was dangerous. Me and Hubs have been together since we were 14 or 15. My mom hated him and was always trying to get us to break up. So we did what most dumb kids do and did it like our lives depended on it. Every Saturday, upwards of 8 to 10 times in 5 to 6 hours until we were sore and sticky with sweat. Turns out for both of us just Saturday wasn't enough. We were growing active teenagers, not sure how often for him, but I go to town 4 or 5 times a day and night, that wasn't a slow day. My mom hated us being together and refused to give us more than that time slot. She even decided what I would wear, no shorts so I wore sweatpants, the no sweatpants so I wore leggings, etc. Soon I was wearing 2 pairs of pants and sweatshirts. This was so I couldn't throw my clothes on quickly if she decided to surprise us and drop by. Hub's mom was cool as fuck though, because she would keep looking out in the living room and yell if a car pulled in. One time, I had to run to the bathroom without anything on with my clothes between my legs while she talked to Mom on the porch and helped me fake an upset stomach. The real MVP. Occasionally, Hubs would sneak me porn, which I had to carry to school with me because my mom was an untrustworthy witch. She would comb through my room every chance she got, looking for and reading my diary or checking my phone. Yeah, I wasn't allowed to clear my messages until she read them, and she would see how many texts Verizon said were sent and received versus how many were in my phone to make sure I didn't delete any. I eventually could inflict it to other people, I had to see us doing it. So we recorded and took pictures of the nastiest crap, and I took the camera home for a week, we took turns using it, and I had to play the guessing game as to what my mom was going to search, my book bag or my bedroom every day. Never got caught, thank God. She had already told me several times that if she found anything, she would call the police and tell them I told her my boyfriend did horrible things to me that I was lying to cover him. I don't know if I ever told him that part, but it's whatever now. Law. We're married at 22 or 23 with a 1-year-old and haven't spoken to her in years. Yay, us. Was the movie, Monster-in-Law, based on her? If you don't want your future mother-in-law to be like her, you better hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. So yeah, back to the video. Story 8, fairly late night, around 1:30 a.m. or so. A guy on Grindr I had not messaged before came on fairly hot and heavy, and the pic was hot as hell. And in the bedroom seems like we would be a green match. A bonus was he was less than 3 miles away, also in the suburbs. After our fast and furious and detailed chat, somehow it was decided that he wanted me to show up at his door wearing a jockstrap only, with a toy way up my backside. This seems reasonable. Drove there with a t-shirt and shorts and over it all, and once I maneuvered the grid of the burbs where he was, found the street. Fairly warm, steamy summer night. I take off the shirt and shorts and try the door near the garage, not opened like he said it would be. Go 90 degrees around to the front and try the front door. Nothing. Go back to the garage door and try the doorbell. Through the sounds of a summer night, I can hear things inside the house stirring. Figured the guy might have fallen asleep and has just woken up and would be up in a bit. The porch light turns on. No one answers the door. I ring the bell again. Still no response. Finally, after what seems like forever, I go back to my car, call up the app, and see the user as something like 258 feet away, as oddly specific as Grindr can be. Message him, no response. It's slowly dawning on me that I probably have been set up and am within viewing distance of whoever dreamed up this ridiculous scenario. So I realize the best path is to hightail it out of there. I don't bother putting the shorts back on for some insane reason. About 3 blocks of my trip home, 2 patrol cars drove fairly fast right by me. It hits hard, the set-up nature of everything. I'm super glad I escaped such a close call. But I didn't. As soon as I got back to the main road, the light started flashing. It turned around as soon as they recognized my car from the call-in description. The officer that talked to me was perplexed that I was just wearing a jockstrap. He didn't see the rest of the situation. I explained the situation, showed him the Grindr chat with the address and a dozen horrifying, cringe-worthy details of what was expected to happen. He took my license and registration and went back to a squad car for what seemed like a day. It was actually only about 12 minutes, but he came back and told me to be more careful and let me go. Story 9. When I was 15, my then-girlfriend and I were at a friend's house. Her friend's mother was there, as well as another teenage couple. Later on, all of us were watching Nightmare Before Christmas in the living room, and my girlfriend and I were sharing a blanket on the couch. My girlfriend took it out. Those whiner pockets and briefs are seriously complicated. I'm holding the blanket up so that her hand motion isn't obvious, but halfway through my friend's mom comes in and sits right next to me. This lady is not attractive, 350 pounds and missing teeth. This wouldn't have been the worst on its own, but then the mother makes conversation. My girlfriend doesn't ever stop, and in fact is more enthusiastic. I'm trying to manage the blanket, not to finish, stay hard, not vomit from the mom's stink, many conversation, and watch the goddamn movie. At this point in the movie, the This Is Halloween song starts to play, and the rhythm of what she was doing to me now matches the song, and I'm getting uncomfortably close. The friend in the aforementioned couples start to sing along, and eventually the mom does too. Everybody but me singing, even my freaking girlfriend is going along. When the song reaches its climax, my girlfriend goes hard, and I unload into the blanket and do my best not to get any on myself, but the mom starts pushing my arm to get me to sing along as well. I end up with stuff all along my sleeve, and it almost comes out from underneath the blanket. I manage to save it by pulling the blanket back up with my clean arm. I know for a fact I'm screwed unless I come up with something, so I put my thing back and pretend to sneeze into my hand that's attached to the arm that's attached to the crime scene. I end up getting some in my nose, which maybe helped or maybe guaranteed my place in hell. Anyways, I act like a brat and rub my snot into the blanket and blow for a second time. Mother gets pissed on my terrible manners when I go to the bathroom and clean myself off. We broke up a month later. Your ex is a menace, she did you dirty. Another thing, how does it feel to have cum on your nose and just rub it all over? It's hilarious. Story 10, maybe not pathetic but insanely embarrassing. 12-year-old me had recently figured out that we had an adult channel showing content after midnight. I was really curious about it, and badly wanted to check it out. So I did. I had heard everyone else going to bed, so I waited until after midnight and snuck downstairs. I turned on the TV and quickly muted the audio so as to not wake anyone. I was only able to enjoy a few glorious moments of soft porn before I heard a noise upstairs. Crap. Someone was coming. I switched back to the previous channel and shuffled around trying to look as if I had some other intention. Soon I was facing my dad. He asked what I was doing. I can't remember exactly what I replied, but it was surely some bad excuse. He told me to go back to bed, and I did. The next day, me, my father, and my then 8-year-old brother are watching a movie. After maybe an hour of that, someone turns off the sound. Puzzle. I look at the other two. Then back to the TV, I can see 8 blank 5 being punched in. Oh, damn. My dad was recording a movie that night. My dad's reaction was quite hilarious. He got up immediately, turned off the TV, looked at me and said, "So that's what you were doing up last night?" Meanwhile, my brother was pretending to be asleep. Unfortunately, it never turned up the volume again, so the rest of the recorded movie was silent. We turned it off. That's hilarious. Dude just ruined his dad's movie night, so what channel was that? Again, 8 blank 5, story 11. At my friend's house. One of the girls in my small circle of dorky friends went to her place after school to hang out before I had to go to driver's ed. Basically, I decided it was a good idea to take out my thing out of nowhere, hoping it would lead to something. I begged her to help me out because we were friends and I would do the same. Eventually she said, "Fine, I'll touch it," and she flicked the tip as hard as she could and told me if I asked her again, she would grab it without hesitation, only with her sharp nails. Pathetic, but has a nice ending. I told her I gotta get rid of it though, so I'm going to get handy. She said it doesn't bother her because she's seen them before, and it's no big deal, and she doesn't care what I do. So I basically just did it right there. In front of her. She didn't care, she would still do whatever she was doing but still looked, commented, and poked fun, or just watched the whole way through. Basically, I did it at her house almost every day after that for the rest of the driver's ed. Which was only like, 1 week long? Thinking back, it was pretty weird, and it kinda paid off and kinda didn't. I had fun anyways, but man was I pathetic. She was a good sport, don't know if she really enjoyed it, but I don't think she wanted to get into doing stuff with me if we weren't together. I can't say if it was a win, but if this dude kept doing it for a week, then it's probably a win for him. Story 12. I'm not even going to use a throwaway because it was hilarious. My brother and I moved to Mississauga, Ontario in 1995 to start a company with a Canadian guy who was also just out of college. He had this cousin, we'll call him David, who was like 6'5" and dark and handsome. Dude pulled the trim. He was funny as hell. We were talking about jerking off one time, just laughing about stuff. And he goes, "Have you guys ever cantaloupe? You heat it up, cut a hole in it, and it feels like heaven." We were hysterical, but since my girlfriend was in the States and I'd only see her once a month, I got quite lonely. So my brother says one day, "Let's go buy some cantaloupes and try them out." Okay, this is going to be messy, I could already tell. So we get our lopes, heat them a bit in the microwave, and cut a hole in them. We make our way into separate rooms with our fruit. And I gotta say, it was awesome at first, but then the juice starts dripping everywhere and it's slippery. So I drop the thing, it rolls under the bed, I kneel down, but full backward, and I can't get back up because my pants are still around my ankles. I start laughing and my brother starts laughing, so I assume his experience went as well. There's freaking cantaloupe juice everywhere. I lost my wood, so I just had to throw my clothes in the laundry and took a shower. First and last time I bang a fruit. Dave is the cantaloupe guy. He just wanted to share the burning experience. If you made it this far, I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, I know you like. What's the worst random boner you've ever gone? Make sure to check it out. Story 3 is unbelievable. See you in that video.